Hey, you guys. Okay, so presumably you have come to peruse this video because you want to know what Shou Gong is. I'll this may not be it's not going to be a complete video, of course. That would take hours and hours, but I'll try just to go through what I know, and hopefully by the end of it we'll have at least a better understanding than wherever we are now, right? So first of all, what does it mean? Shou Gong translates to the art of longevity. It is a martial art, although I tend to think of it as something that especially works well if you already know other more sort of hard style martial arts or other systems. For me, I really love Shou Gong because I think it complements other systems very, very well. I've got a background in Taekwondo, I've done some Judo, I do a lot of Filipino martial arts. So yeah, my sort of journey to it, well, I suppose everyone's journey to it is going to be quite different, right? But yeah, I mean, when I came across it, I think I had a pretty good understanding of the more external martial arts. And I really wanted to approach a system which had a more internal focus and was softer, which this is. It has 36 forms total. They're all pretty short, which again I like because it makes them relatively straightforward to learn. They don't take a really long time to practice, and they're grouped in sets of 6. And when I say forms, depending on which martial art sort of you're used to practicing, or again maybe you come to this as like a complete beginner and you're like, what's a what's a form? It's essentially a group of choreographed movements that help us to learn the different techniques that are within the system. So again, if you've seen people that do karate, do like katas, that's essentially what the forms are. Or I started with Taekwondo, so we just call them patterns. But patterns, forms, kata, it's essentially the same thing, or they're very similar. It's a way of us remembering different techniques, going through them, just helps us to essentially learn our system, especially when we're practicing on our own. We have a lot of partner work in Shou Gong, but we can't always, we may not always have people around to practice with, and I think the forms are just a great way, especially in Shou Gong, I would say. I definitely think, at least for me personally, I get more out of doing my forms in this than I did back in the other sort of the other systems I've trained in. Let's say it like that. It starts very, it probably does seem external when you start, right? Like we all have to kind of meet it where we are. So if you haven't done any work on cultivating internal power, or some people might say like energy, or I mean we refer to it in different ways. We tend to say qi in Shou Gong, like other traditional Chinese martial arts. But you have to learn the movements as with any other form, right? So it might be like, oh well, where's the placement of your hand, or it needs to be turned a certain way, or oh, your elbow needs to be connected here, or there's going to be like physical stuff like that, right? That's how we have to start learning. Always what angle are your toes pointing at in relation to your other foot, and yada yada. But over time, as we move through that, the movements become softer and it becomes more about what's going on in the inside of your body, right? And that takes time. It takes time, but I found that, at least with my practice, I think it's going well, right? I should say how it came to be was essentially a kind of mashing together of two different systems, Lohan Rui and Wuji. Lohan Rui already had, I think it's over 100 forms. So yeah, more than 36. And my understanding is that some of them were quite lengthy. And I think the idea was that it's very difficult for people living in today's world to really dedicate the time to these practices. Let's say you wanted to learn Lohan Ruyi and Wuji. I think Wuji also had 36 forms, but again, I could be wrong on that. Like I'm not an expert in Lohan or Wuji. But yeah, my understanding is that if you were to try and approach these systems, you would have to spend years essentially in a monastery learning these different forms, these techniques, and practicing them. And over time, fewer and fewer people were able to do this, or they weren't doing it, right? And so it was decided, like, hey, look, as a way to save these systems, they needed to be adapted. And for that, we have Grandmaster Chi Kim Thong and also Grandmaster Yap Cheng Hai to thank for that. I won't talk loads about their personal lives here because that would be, I think that's something for another video, but then there are other sort of resources out there. So if people are really interested in their lives, there is other stuff, either on the main Shou Gong website. I think there is also a little bit about that on the West Country Shou Gong site. But yeah, I'll leave you guys to find that at your own pace. But yeah, so again, the idea was to distill the sort of the best parts of these different systems and build a new system where people can learn it in a much shorter time, you know, not without dedicating years and years to all these different forms, and that they could still get the benefit that they may have got from doing Lohan or Wuji. So Shou Gong is not particularly old. I think it's been around something like 40 years now. Although it has a basis in arts that are much older than that. I mean, Grandmaster Yap Cheng Hai was teaching it up until his passing, which I think was in 2014. I think I've got that right. And I should say as well that to say it's just a combination of these two different arts is an oversimplification. But again, I don't want this video to be hours and hours long. There was also sort of Taiji and Bagua, Five Ancestors. These other things all had an influence on Shou Gong. And now, of course, after Grandmaster Chi Kim Thong's passing and Grandmaster Yap Cheng Hai, it's Grandmaster Yap Cheng Hai's son, Master Yap Bo Hyung, who's my teacher now, right? So there's that that lineage that's still living today. It's probably worth talking a little bit about the differences between Qigong and Neigong. But again, I feel like if I try and cover all of that here, it's going to be a very lengthy video. Qigong, like, I mean, you may sometimes in other videos or whatever hear me referring to Shou Gong as a kind of Qigong. It's important to note that Qigong is essentially something that's derived from Neigong. Neigong is like a larger system which incorporates other things, particularly like traditional Chinese medicine. And yeah, I won't try and kind of stumble through it in this video. if people are interested and they want to learn more about it, there's definitely some, I think there's an interview that's probably on the Martial Man channel with Master Yap, where he speaks about the differences between Qigong and Neigong, and he sort of elaborates more on that. But yeah, and maybe at a later time, if people are interested, I can make a video like that. But I think it's only sort of really necessary for me to say in this one that Shou Gong is a legitimate form of Shaolin Neigong. Now, where shall I go with this? Okay, so one thing that Master Yap felt was important with Shou Gong was to try and condense further the period of time it would take someone to learn these skills, because the different systems that were already in existence, some of them very, very good, and a lot which aren't so good, right? I think we have to be honest with ourselves that when we look around the internet or you know, whatever it may be, there are a lot of systems or a lot of different teachers teaching these kind of things which are maybe not so good, right? Yeah, I was doing a lot of different kinds of Qigong before I came to Shou Gong, and yeah, I definitely think my own personal experience with it is that Shou Gong was very much more legitimate than some other kind of systems I've come across online, and that's just a reality of you know of where we are with this stuff, right? But once and that's it. So Master Yap really felt it was important that you wouldn't be having to spend 10-20 years of your life going through these same movements, these same forms or practices, and still not really, like maybe you still wouldn't feel like, we talk about the sensation that comes with the flow of qi through the fascia, through whatever else, and it's just not really, I don't know, not acceptable or not palatable or whatever for us to be faced with learning something for like a decade or more and being like, I kind of get it. And I think what's been really good, at least for me, learning Shou Gong and now teaching it, is that you can condense that time down. The idea was to take what might have been studied over the course of like 10 years and to get the benefit of that in around about 3 years. That's the goal anyway. So it's not an exact science, right? But yeah, I can attest to that. I'm not saying, I'm not like mastered this. I mean, Shou Gong would be something that I continue learning, throughout the rest of my life. But it is, let's say, it has been really encouraging for me as I've been working through this to start feeling these different sensations associated with this flow of qi, or other people might refer to it as like energy or like prana or whatever, right? But it's this kind of life force, So yeah, that's one of the main ideas that we work with in Shou Gong, is trying to reduce the amount of time it takes to really feel this stuff sort of working, to cultivate these internal energies or energy. Again, my background was mainly in more like hard styles of martial arts, so we weren't doing a lot of that. So it's not like I can really say, oh, well, I spent 10 years doing this system and then this long in this, and this is how it's compared. So in fairness, I'm not sure. Maybe, maybe if you have a background in other internal systems, maybe you'd have a different view of it, which of course I'm open to, right? But that's the idea anyway. Yeah, and so so testing is another thing that's important in this system. We want to be able to work with a partner or a group of different people, and to go through the techniques that we're learning, like taken from the forms, and check them and check and see, well, okay, like this position is supposed to be strong. Well, is it strong? Because if you never check these things, maybe the technique is not so good, or maybe we're not doing the technique properly. And I think if we can partner up with each other and say, okay, well, you press my sort of fingers here, or you hold my shoulder here, and I'll do the movement, it should work, right? And if it doesn't work, we can go through with the students, say, hey, look, maybe try this or try that, and in theory, it should make a big difference, right? I think it's made a big difference for me. Definitely, when I can get together with other people, it really improves things more quickly than just trying to work through the forms in a solitary fashion, right? Okay, what else have I got? I think I'll give it up now. I have notes in front of me. So yeah, occasionally I'm going to be glancing at a laptop here. So yeah, I mean, my focus with Yan Shou Gong was, I was mainly interested in the healing side of it. There are martial applications for the movements. That's part of where it comes into Gong. It does retain those martial applications, whereas I think a lot of other Qigong stuff is not really so much like that. Again, it's not my main focus. Again, I came to this already learning different martial arts and being sort of quite comfortable with that side of things. But again, if you're interested in that, this is absolutely something that's covered with Yan Shou Gong. Trying to think what else, what other stuff I need to cover. We do have other instructors in the UK. I think currently there's 4 of us. So 3 of us are based in the southwest, and then there's another instructor, Richard McAvoy, who's in Northern Ireland. But yeah, I mean, if there's ever, if you're watching it and you're in other parts of the UK, you think, oh, I'm in, I don't know, some random place, maybe you're in the Midlands or up north or whatever, and you're not close to where we're based, that's okay. You can always contact either me through the West Country Yan Shou Gong website. There's a contact form there, or get in touch with one of the other instructors through the main Yan Shou Gong website. And we're pretty open to either, it might be traveling to do private tuition, or if you have you're interested in it and there's some people that want to do it, maybe it's possible to set up a workshop in another place in the UK. All this stuff is possible, but yeah, just reach out to us and yeah, let us know what you're thinking or what you're interested in. I should also say, please do like and subscribe to the channel. Any comments, basically the more engagement, the better. It helps West Country Yan Shou Gong to grow, and I really think it's just nice to see the more of a community we build up, the more we can teach this art. And I think it's an important thing for us to be able to teach. It's helped me in a lot of ways, and I think it's nice that we're starting to get more kind of stuff going on in the UK. Because otherwise, I mean, wind back years ago, you'd have had to go to Asia to study this. And yeah, I think just as time goes on, we're getting more and more workshops and more seminars and other stuff like that happening across Europe. And yeah, it's good to see. But yeah, obviously we appreciate the support of you guys watching this. I should talk a little bit about what a class might look like. So it's going to be pretty similar if you've done other martial arts, but if you haven't, then let's see. So we typically start with a warm up. There's going to be some stretching. It's not like really crazy. It's not full on yoga style big back bends and forward folds and stuff like that. Although I'm sure a lot of us can do that, but yeah, the stretching tends to be a little more gentle. There's not sparring or pad work or anything like that. It's not that I don't know aggressive or whatever. Like I said, it's a softer style. We do a lot of partner testing, but again, the testing is very gentle because again, we want it to be accessible for people and for all different kinds of people. It's not like some martial arts, like, I mean, let's say you're going to do some kind of kickboxing styles or like Muay Thai or whatever, where, again, I'm not saying that older people can't do it or whatever, but you tend to see more injuries, especially like when I was doing judo, for example. It's an amazing martial art. Like I don't want to hate on it, or whatever, but I did notice, like, hey, look, I was picking up injuries and stuff, and that's part of it. It's part of doing a more kind of hard style, but this is much more gentle. And yeah, I've not seen anyone pick up any kind of injuries from doing Yan Shou Gong in any of the partner testing or whatever else. There's probably going to be some theory as part of the workshops. That's normal, and we have time for questions and answers and stuff like that. For me personally, I like to focus on the sensitivity exercises, particularly centered around the Lao Gong, so that we can really feel kind of what's going on a subtler level. There might be a little bit of breath work, maybe even a bit of meditation, though that's not the main focus of a class or a workshop. And then we have the forms. So of course we teach the forms to people. And again, I know I mentioned it earlier, but they do tend to be very short. I think the average is maybe like a minute. Some of the forms might be 30 seconds, right? And they're performed quite slowly. So you think that there's a lot of depth to the forms, but they're not wildly complicated. They're certainly easier for me to remember than some of the other kinds of forms or patterns or whatever I was learning in other systems. And the idea being that you can do, maybe you could get up in the morning and be able to practice a form, 3, 4, maybe 5 times, just like before you brush your teeth or before you go about and do whatever else you have to do for your day. It's the idea that you can fit these sort of forms in sort of throughout your day in a way that over time you build up those hours of practice, and that it's probably better doing it that way. We tend to think like it's better to do it little and often and build up that way than saying like, well, I'm going to dedicate 2 hours once a week to practicing. I think that there's nothing wrong with doing it that way if that's what you want to do, but we tend to encourage people to just you don't have to take 30-45 minutes out from your day. Just try and find 5-10 minutes at different points throughout the day. That should be enough to help practice the forms. And then of course, if you go and do a workshop where you might be doing it for like 6 or 7 hours over a day or 2 days or whatever, you can kind of you can do that, but day to day we're not we're not asking people to dedicate like 6 hours a day to your forms or whatever. That's I mean, look, I'm definitely not doing that, right? But okay, I think I'm going to wrap it here. I hope that that's given some insight into what Yan Shou Gong's like, the kind of stuff that I'm teaching or that the other instructors are teaching with Yan Shou Gong. I hope you guys liked it. If you didn't like it, I don't know why you've watched to the end. But either way, thank you. Thank you. Please do like the video. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, like I said, please do subscribe and hit the bell icon. And yeah, I think I've covered everything, right? But if you do have any comments, just questions, just leave it in the comment section. And yeah, I wish you much love. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day wherever you are in the world. And remember, Gongers never say die.